1930s, and most people know more about it hearing at the table than I did. But anyway, this is has to be a more personal thing of my life in those days. But I need to start a little bit early. 10 miles from the closest town of Iowa Falls, a population of about 4,000 people. I had a brother 6 years older and a sister. My sister was 6 years younger. We went to school in a one-room country schoolhouse. There was one teacher. She taught all grades set 1st through 8th. When I passed the 8th grade, I had to go to Iowa Falls to high school. I had 2 aunts living there, so I lived with one aunt the first 2 years of school and another aunt that last 2. I was 14 and a sophomore in high school when the financial crash of October 1929 came. The 2 banks in town closed immediately to prevent panic withdrawal of funds, but they opened up several days afterwards when the people began to calm down some. I remember no suicides or any businesses having to close in the town. But Iowa is a farm country, and Iowa Falls was in the central part of it. The farmers had gardens and fruit trees, and then they had canned produce during the summer for winter use. They raised chickens, cows, pigs, calves to sell and for their own use as eggs, milk, and meat to eat. So they could survive better than the people who were on salaries and were laid off. In my senior year of high school, I worked after school and on Saturdays for J.J. Newberry Company, the 5 and 10 cent store. And when I graduated from high school in 1931, I began full-time work. My salary was $5 a week. The store was open 8 to 6 on Monday through Friday, and from 8 to 9, 10, or even 11 on Saturday nights, depending on the amount of the shoppers. The families came to town on Saturday night to go to the movies for 10 cents, to bring surplus eggs and milk to sell to the farmers' co-op, and to shop and to visit with their neighbors that they'd meet on the street. The movies were silent, black and white, and with the captions on the bottom of the screen. There was a piano in the orchestra pit, and someone played the piano with appropriate music for what you could see on the screen. You can imagine what it was like when the cowboys were chasing them. A girl at work and I rented a room in a family home. It had a hot plate for cooking, and the water was across the hall in the bathroom. We paid $3 a week rent. One of our friends came to town to work at Christmas, and she stayed with us, so our rent went up 50 cents a week. In 1932, when Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected president, one of his campaign mottos was, and that is it's sort of like Obama's stimulus package. Our pay went up to $7 a week. FDR established the Civilian Conservation Corps to put people back to work. There were CCC camps across the country where men and boys 18 years older were built roads and highways. My sister started high school in 1933. I rented a room for us to be together. It was also had a hot plate and the water across the hall in the bathroom. We wore one another's clothes and were mostly hand-me-downs from some cousins who were more better off than we were. And we ate a lot of potatoes, because potatoes was one thing we could bring from home that took to use. In 1935, Social Security was adopted. In 1936, some friends from Davenport, Iowa came to visit our family. And with my parents' permission, I quit my job at J.J. Newberry Company and rode home with these friends to Davenport. Then I rode a bus to Peoria, Illinois, where my brother was living. I got a job in a department store the first week I was there. My salary went up to $13 a week. Meanwhile, the people were losing their farms and their homes, just like they're doing now. Just making the same mistakes then that the mistakes that made that's caused all the problems now. My parents lost their farm in 1937. They sold all the animals and farm machinery and paid down on a smaller farm. And Dad rented out the farmland to someone, and he started raising hogs. Duroc hogs was a especially good breed, and they were breeding hogs. So farmers came from all over Iowa and nearby states to buy the hogs for their own stock. So he was able to recover his loss. The economy didn't change much until in the 40s, and I guess I better not talk about the 40s. But there was, I do want to mention, maybe someone else will say the same thing. The boys had, in the 1940, the boys had to register in the Selective Service Act for military draft. And the bombing of Pearl Harbor, of course, brought on the Second World War, which they call the Japanese War. The boys in service did. And we had food stamps for all staple goods like sugar, flour, and meat, and all the gas was rationed as we spoke. And there were long bread lines for people who were being served meals by the Salvation Army, or the soup kitchen, as they called it. And we sold war bonds, just like the savings bonds are today. So the war made more jobs available, and the nation began to recover. So here we are 80 years later, and doing the same thing over again. So God save America. Nobody else.
Amen.